Good evening and welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Neelu. How are you? Thank you so much for all your story responses on yesterday's story, Robert the Bruce and the Spider. So the message in the story is try till you succeed. Those who miss this story can go back to my IGTV on Instagram and catch it anytime. Coming to today's story. Today's story is a fairy tale. Yeah, The Little Mouse and the Queen. And this is a story from France. And I found it on Stories to Grow by. My thoughts on this story. So once there was a queen who was pretty strong, but a wicked king defeated her and got her to his palace and shut her in the tower of the palace. And she stayed there with her little infant, a little baby girl, and she was growing thinner by the day because they were not given proper food. The only food she got was 3 green peas and a small piece of black bread and a little water to survive. So this is how the queen lived there, and she grew thinner and she fell sick and she was bedridden. And at that time the wicked king called for a fairy, and he said, just tell me if this little girl is going to become a princess to wed my son. Yeah. So to this, the fairy said, certainly this little girl will become a beautiful princess one day. So, and she looked at the queen, the fairy looked at the queen and held her hand and said, I am going to help you, please don't worry. And to this, the queen said, thank you. But before they could do anything else, the king shouted and said, silence, I don't want any more noise here, and asked the fairy to leave immediately. So the fairy left, and the queen was left alone again with her little baby. So she started weaving a small basket. She said, I will put my little baby in the basket and leave her below the window so that someone can pick her up and give her a good life. So after some time, the queen started weaving the basket, yeah, and as she was doing it, she found a little mouse, yeah, little plump beautiful mouse which came up, and it started dancing, and the queen kept looking at her at the mouse, and the mouse started dancing. And after some time, the queen started laughing, and she felt so good that she appreciated the mouse. She looked at it and she felt very good, and but said, dear mouse, I don't have anything to offer you because I don't even have food to eat, proper food to eat. But she said, I have 3 green peas, but you have done such a beautiful job. I can give you 1 pea, one for my baby, one for me, and one for you. And she gave that pea to the little mouse, and the mouse had the pea. And immediately the queen saw that, her plate was full of food. So the queen felt very happy, and she thought this was some sort of magic, and she ate it, and she gained strength, and her baby gained strength, and she started making the basket. And one day her basket was ready, and this mouse kept coming every single day and to entertain the queen, and this went on. Her plate was full of food, and the queen would give queen gave away all the peas which she had, and then the mouse would return it in the form of food, and this went on and on. And once the basket was ready, the queen decided, with a heavy heart, she decided to put her baby in the basket and leave her below the window. So one day, when she was trying to leave the baby below the window, there appeared a little old woman, and she looked at her and said, look, I think you're leaving your baby here. So to this, the queen said, yes, I want someone to take care of her. Would you? So the old lady said, yes, of course, I will take care of your baby, but I'm very fond of mice. And if you give me a mouse to eat, I really want to have a mouse. Yeah. So give me a small, little plump mouse, which I can eat, so that after that, I'll take care of your baby. This is the condition on which I will take care of your baby. So the queen starts weeping, and she says, how can I give away that mouse? I have a mouse, but it is so good. It has been so good to me, and it had helped me, when I was in trouble. So I cannot give away that mouse. Unfortunately, my baby has to stay like this, or one day I'll leave it under the window so that someone or the other will pick up and take care of it. Yeah. So while she was thinking like this, suddenly there appeared a fairy in front of her. And the fairy smiled and said, I will help you. The little mouse is none but the fairy. Yeah. So no one else but the fairy. So the fairy looked and smiled and said, I was always here by your side to help you. And I will help you get out from here. I'll help you and your baby. I'll take you both away, and you can really live a very happy life. I was only testing you to see if you really are a kind soul, yeah, and if you're a good person. So she passed the test, and the fairy took both of them away from there, from the Wicked King, and they lived happily ever after. And that is the story. So, what do these fairy tales mean to us? We all read stories so that we can pick up something from the stories. Yeah, the queen not only was kind, but she respected another life. So, for me, the message in the story is respect yourself and others. Yeah. So, while reading this story, I was seeing that mother's love, how she held her baby, how much she wanted to protect her. Yeah, I was thinking, I was in my school, and that time in our school, there was some work going on in the yard. So they asked all the school students not to cross a certain place, and they drew a crease there, and we were not supposed to go there. So me and my friend were standing there and chatting. Yeah, we were in some higher we were in high school, so we were chatting, and we just the break was over and the bell rang, and we kept running. We ran, and we just happened to cross the crease, and then there appeared our PT sir, like, the sports sir. He looked at us, and he just took a stick and bet both of us, one each. And we both were startled, and we looked at him. We were just trying to tell him that we are not at that place. We were not doing anything. We are inside. So, but he didn't bother to listen to us, and he said, "Get out, go to your classes." And he was very strict. So we went back to our class, and I went home that day, and my mother saw me, and there was a huge mark on my skin where he bet me. She was so upset, as if there was a tsunami or a cyclone. She walked out, and she came to the school next day, and she met the principal, and she said, I want to talk to this sports teacher. How can he beat a little child so badly? And he called, the principal called my sports teacher, and he had to apologize, in front of the principal, to my mother. And he said, I will never do that. So then my mother calmed down, and she said, had it been your child, would you do this to her? Yeah, this is not done. I wouldn't want my child to be hurt ever again. So to this, the PT sir said, okay. So whenever I used to see him, I used to say, good morning, sir. And he would say, okay, good morning. He would not say anything to me after that. So this is what I remembered. What you remember, please put it down in your comments, and I will respond to all the comments related to the story. I'll see you here again tomorrow, only on Bedtime Stories with Neelu. Till then, sleep well, take care, wake up with a fresh thought and a great purpose. You all are beautiful. Life is beautiful. Everything is going to be okay. If you're going through a bad phase, that's going to pass. Yeah, this too shall pass. Good night.